Yo, what's up guys, welcome back to another video, and this is another baseball reaction, and we're doing another reaction to SB Nation, and I'm really enjoying his videos, man. It's a lot more like easier, it's a lot easier to understand for someone who's a novice and someone who's learning, just the way he sort of formats and videos. I say he actually, it's a collective group, the way they form their videos, etc. And yo, this video is the biggest curse ending moment in baseball history, demands a deep rewind to 2016 World Game Series Game 7. I feel like these are sort of stories that go under the radar, but the way they sort of explain it and the way they sort of talk about the moment, it just sort of makes you like feel and sort of understand how incredible it really was. And I'm really enjoying it, man. I'm definitely wanting to do more of these sort of baseball videos, and maybe there's other sports I could do that SB Nation do, because I'm actually really enjoying them. It's just the way they sort of the way they make the videos is just really, really good for someone who's a novice like me, and someone who's learning the sport. But yo, I'm ready for this, man. I'm not too sure what to expect, which seems to be my trademark saying before I get into a video, but genuinely I'm not. Curse ending. Like, what is a curse ending? I'm guessing it's going to explain through this. Maybe it's just an ending that is unexpected. I'm not too sure, but yo, I'm excited to get into it, man. Let's get into it. If you want to see more reactions like this, please leave a like and suggest more videos that you want to see like this in future, and I'll be sure to do so, man. I'm really enjoying this sort of stuff. Let's just get into it.
It's November 2nd, 2016. We're at Progressive Field, where Cleveland's hosting the Chicago Cubs for Game 7 of the World Series. The Cubs are defending a one-run lead in the bottom of the 10th inning. A Cleveland runner stands on first with 2 outs. You probably know what's about to happen, but these home fans do not. Not yet. Nor do the Cubs fans who traveled hundreds of miles in hopes of witnessing
the way he
history.
forms it.
And history is going to be made, no matter what. Before that happens, we need to measure the immense weight of this moment. We need to look around this field and realize that every single person on it created this moment, and that whatever history gets made will bear each of their fingerprints, for better or worse. To fully appreciate these teams, this series, and more than anything else, this enthralling game of baseball, we need to rewind.
Come on, man. I love his sort of the way he talks about every single detail.
So the big overarching...
I keep saying he. I probably will keep saying he, but I do know it's a collective group. I'm probably just saying he because it's the person who's talking. But I do realize a few of you have said this is like a collective group who make these videos together. Sorry, that might annoy a few people.
Theme here is curses, on both sides. Cleveland last won a World Series in 1948. They've won the American League a few times since then, including a couple in the 90s, but never won the whole thing. And some of those losses, like Jose Mesa's blown save in Game 7 of the 1997 World Series, were truly harrowing. If you traffic in superstition, you might attribute all this to a curse that fell upon the franchise when they dealt away beloved all-star Rocky Colavito in a disastrous 1960 trade. Whatever the reason, this team's history seems riddled with jinxes, and that old, sick feeling has returned over the last couple days. The AL Central champ crushed their playoff competition to win the 2016 pennant, then won twice at Wrigley Field to pull ahead 3-1 in this World Series, a single victory away from glory. That felt like a curse about to break. It felt like a suitable follow-up to the Cleveland Cavaliers making their own...
I was literally thinking about that, about how LeBron how LeBron came back and won their first championship in 70 years, however. It could be the same with baseball. Was this in the same year as well? This was in the same year and they end up winning it.
History by coming back from a 3-1 deficit to win the NBA Finals earlier this year.
That is really
Cleveland's been feeling more and more like Believeland. Well, it is feeling perilously not like that anymore.
Oh no.
Cleveland now sits on the precipice of blowing a 3-1 lead and permitting the end of an even more substantial curse. If you've been paying any attention, you're tired of hearing about the age-old Billy Goat curse. But the upshot is this. The Cubs haven't won the World Series since 1908. Until this year, they hadn't even participated in a World Series since 1945.
Why are Chicago Cubs such a well-known team for me? Someone who's never even experienced like baseball before reacting to it. For some reason, I know the Chicago Cubs. I feel like I'd have known this team. Just as one of those sort of things you know about sport, like you would just sort of hear the Chicago Cubs, you'd be like, oh yeah, they sound very familiar. Even though I didn't follow baseball at all, like let's say a year ago. But they've not reached. Wait, what?
Is this? The Cubs haven't won the World Series since 1908.
Bro!
Until this year, they hadn't even participated in a World Series since 1945. Both records by a long shot.
671.
Chicago's curse is attributed to the time in 1945 when a tavern owner, upset that his pet goat had been denied entry to Wrigley Field, put a hex on the franchise.
Oh, mate.
And in the years since, they've had some truly cursed-seeming moments in clincher games, like the Leon Durham error that commenced a blown lead in the 1984 NLCS, or the 8th inning of Game 6 of the 2003 NLCS, a parade of blunders that set a collapse in motion, but is still most remembered for Steve Bartman's fan interference. By conventional measures, the curse ended last month. The Cubs won an MLB best 103 games, they boasted one of the best pitching staffs in the majors, and their entire infield started in the All-Star game, including NL MVP frontrunner Kris Bryant. Bryant and fellow youngster Javi Baez led the way in an NLDS victory over the Giants. And Chicago came back from an early series deficit to beat the Dodgers 4-2 in the NLCS. The Cubs got their pennant. Any Caprine ghosts have been busted.
Bro, this is some juju, man. This is some weird witch stuff. They've had a curse in their, what was it, like since 1946, well, like when the whole goat thing. And it's been lifted now and everything's just sort of panning out perfectly. Bro, that is some, wait, when you actually think about that, it's actually very weird. Like, obviously it'll just like be brushed on the carpet as in like, it's just things happen like that, it's a coincidence. But that is kind of weird, not gonna lie.
And after clinching something for the first time in forever, the Cubs made even more magic. Those 2 home losses put Chicago behind 3-1 in the series, but they collected themselves and took Game 5 thanks to John Lester's strong start and a big 4th inning from the offense. Then, Jake Arrieta and a homer-happy lineup dominated Game 6 to pull even.
Okay.
Addison Russell alone had 6 RBI last night. So yeah, it has increasingly seemed like this team's destiny to not just break the curse, but win it all. Although there have been some pretty hexed-seeming moments tonight. We'll get to them. Either way, someone on the field is going to relieve the weight of decades and decades of falling short held by one of these fan bases, not to mention their ancestors. So we now know why millions of hearts are in stomachs. Let's meet the people who will dictate which hearts get broken, the people who've driven this roller coaster of a game. Let's start with how Cleveland got their runs, which has a bit to do with this ump, a bit more to do with why this guy's pitching for the Cubs, and a lot to do with this fellow on first base. Chicago manager Joe Maddon had a plan for tonight, and he wasn't coy about it. Kyle Hendricks, the stoic Ivy Leaguer with the league best ERA, had closed out the Dodgers and would start the same effort versus Cleveland, carrying the first 5 or so innings. After that, Game 5 winner John Lester would relieve Hendricks, but ideally not with runners on base given his issues with pickoffs.
I don't want to put him into a dirty inning. I don't think that'd be appropriate.
After Lester, hard-throwing closer Aroldis Chapman would close the game, even though his workload all postseason has been immense, including several innings last night and what looked like a rolled ankle despite Chicago's big lead. So let's see how the plan went. Hendricks had a great 4 innings. He got instant run support from Dexter Fowler's leadoff homer and allowed just 1 run the other way, Carlos Santana's RBI single in the 3rd. Russell and Wilson Contreras restored Chicago's lead in the 4th. Then Javi Baez homer drove an unusually iffy Corey Kluber off the mound. Then an Anthony Rizzo liner off Andrew Miller made it 5-1 Cubs. The plan was going great. Hendricks started the 5th, still in control.
Bro, 5-1 up.
Coco Crisp grounded out, Roberto Perez struck out, and then, on a 2-2 count, this pitch could have been called a strike to end the inning.
Does not get the call.
It looked good on the broadcast, Contreras framed it nicely, Hendricks was ready to stroll off the mound. No such luck. Home plate umpire Sam Holbrook called it a ball, and Hendricks ended up walking Santana. Unlucky break, minor mistake, and a runner on base. Explicitly not the time to call upon Lester for his first relief appearance in almost a decade. And yet, Maddon made a move.
Boy, this is an extremely quick hook.
In came Lester, a decision that necessitated another. Contreras would be replaced behind the plate by David Ross. Ross won a World Series with Lester and the Red Sox in 2013, and the two developed so much chemistry that Ross became Lester's personal catcher. So when Chicago signed Lester before the 2015 season, they brought in his much older battery mate as well. But everyone knows this tandem will break up after tonight. Ross is 39, and before this year, announced this season would be his last.
Oh man,
It spurred an outpouring of appreciation and even a warm, half-joking all-star campaign for the backup catcher. So this is Ross's final game ever, which made what happened in the rest of the fifth inning feel like a cruelly precise flare-up of the Billy Goat curse. Lester took over that dirty inning and immediately dirtied it further. Jason Kipnis just kind of plopped the ball in front of home plate. Lester wouldn't come off the mound and try to throw to first because he doesn't do that. So Ross tried to make the play and airmailed it, allowing runners to advance to second and third. Here's the cursed part. A Lester pitch to the next batter, Francisco Lindor, caromed off the dirt and then into Ross's mask so hard you could hear it. So hard it knocked Ross off his feet.
He's having a meh.
Rarely does a wild pitch go this far astray, and in the ensuing chaos, both runners came around to score and make it 5-3 Cubs. An uncalled borderline strike led to a walk, which led to a weirdly quick hook, which led to absolute mayhem. But the Cubs still had the lead, and Ross undid some of that damage with this shot to right field. A 39-year-old homering in his last game ever, which is Game 7 of the World Series. And by the way, the homer came off a monstrous and well-rested pitcher in Andrew Miller. This was just ridiculous. And Lester and Ross got back on track defensively through the 7th inning, then retired the first two batters of the 8th. Then, yet again, a weird break. Lester induced a grounder, albeit a pretty hard one, from Jose Ramirez, but Russell couldn't make a play on it. With a man on first, out came Madden, and in came Chapman, who just needed to fireball his way to 4 more outs.
6-3.
A pretty perfect situation for a pitcher who, I will mention for no specific reason, hadn't surrendered a home run since June, when he wasn't even a Cub yet. Well, Chapman gave up an RBI double to Brandon Guyer. Not great, but shit happens when you're tired, maybe a little hurt, and the team's gotten used to seeing you. But let's come back to present real quick and notice that, hey, Chapman isn't in the game anymore, and this number and this other number tell us he's struggled to get those 4 outs. And here's Rajai Davis ready to tie the game. Well, he's done it before. Back in the 8th, Davis followed Guyer, and after a prolonged at-bat, did what no one had done since June. Homering off Chapman with an absolute laser.
What someone's actually taught... Wait, actually, I need to see that again. That's some sketchy. The way that ball flies into the screen.
An absolute laser straight into...
Oh my god, that is so weird. I don't know why that sort of got me there. Someone told me basically. So that was a 2-home run. Let's see that. Let's see the actual like.
Did what no one had done since June.
2-home run. I think that's because one person was like, or there was a runner, and obviously he made it, and then he made it for the home run. I think that's what someone told me. So when there's 3 people in different bases, you're going to get 3 points. Or if it's just you there, you get 1 point. I'm pretty sure that's on the correct sort of line. Someone put, like, people, let's say someone, you guys were telling me under the comments of the last baseball reaction, and I actually really appreciate it because I never had any clue that was the case. But now I've been told it kind of makes sense as to why there's sometimes 2 points, why there's sometimes 3, why it's just sometimes 1. But yeah, that's a really cool sort of introduction as to, like, not introduction, sort of good informational... Is that even a word? Informational. Just a good in-look into like the rules of the sport, basically. I'm struggling to talk.
Homering off Chapman was an absolute laser straight into the TV camera that tied the game at 6-all. LeBron loved it. The home fans and the crowd loved it.
Oh, LeBron's in the crowd.
What a horrid turn of events for Chicago. Chapman failed so swiftly that if Chicago can't close this out, Madden will never live down his closer's heavy workload in Game 6. And no one will remember that Chapman pulled himself together to at least avoid a walk-off and send this game to extra innings.
With this, Game 7 is going to the town.
Carl Edwards Jr. replaced Chapman here in the 10th, but Davis just attacked again to drive in Guyer again, make himself the tying run again, and kick Edwards off the mound. If Cleveland does this, Davis is going to get a statue somewhere. What if they don't? Who's the Cubs' hero? It's tough to pick just one, and some of tonight's heroes aren't obvious. The top of this inning, which gave Chicago this lead, featured clutch hitting from some guys who've had memorable postseasons. Kyle Schwarber is one of them. In only his second game of this season, Schwarber was involved in an outfield collision with Fowler that shredded his entire left knee.
Jeez.
He missed the whole year, weathering trade rumors while he recovered, but stuck around and rejoined the lineup literally a week ago.
Jeez.
He's been the designated hitter for these World Series games in the AL Park, and he's done a great job getting on base. That said, base running on recently rebuilt knee ligaments can be tough, as Schwarber demonstrated, failing to stretch a single.
Oh, he's struggling to run, bro.
So when Schwarber opened the 10th with a single, Albert Almora came in to pinch run. This was a crucial substitution. Almora read Bryant's deep fly out perfectly and tagged up to second to get in scoring position. With the base open, Cleveland conferenced to determine whether to walk either Rizzo or Ben Zobrist. They chose Rizzo, putting a huge at-bat in the hands of a guy who, just last season, played a crucial part in ending the Royals' World Series drought. They chose wrong. A guy who's been deadly all series cracked a double to drive in Almora and move Rizzo to third. The catcher who came in for Ross, Miguel Montero, pounced on a pitch to drive in Rizzo.
God damn.
So there are some heroes for you. Davis is unquestionably...
That's literally like a whole team performance, isn't it? It's not like one individual sort of guy leading you to glory. It's a whole team performance. Now let's just see if they're going to win it. I'm actually interested because obviously the Bears, Chicago Bears, they've got the Bears, the Chicago Bears, sorry, I had a brain fart, have went, like 111 years at this point without winning what they're now aiming to win the World Series. And then obviously the Cavs haven't won it. It's the same sort of curse as the curse was for the Bears. It's the same sort of length of time as the Cavs in the NBA had. And it's in the same year as well. If the Cavs gone to win it, the fans and the people in the city must have been so like cheerful that year. That must have been a crazy feeling to be a supporter of the Cavs or from that city in that year if they're going to win.
Cleveland's clutchest hitter tonight, which might be enough to win MVP in the event of a comeback. If the score holds, Zobrist probably wrapped up an MVP-worthy performance with that tie-breaking swing this inning, though Chicago's production has been a bit more distributed. I mean, just in the process of doling out credit, we've named almost every single person on the field for Chicago right now. Almost. We haven't mentioned the pitcher, Mike Montgomery. At best, Chicago's midseason pickup is going to be the answer to the trivia question, who recorded his first career save by getting the last out of the legendary 2016 World Series? At worst, he's about to become a lot more famous for blowing it.
Oh no.
But there's one more person we haven't named. He's the right fielder, and it doesn't seem like he's done much tonight. This is Jason Hayward. If at the beginning of this year I told you the Cubs made the World Series, you would have assumed Hayward was a big part of it.
Okay.
He was the biggest non-pitcher signing of the offseason, leaving the division rival Cardinals for an 8-year, $184 million deal with Chicago. But he followed that huge payday with a pretty stinky year at the plate. This were career worst numbers.
Jesus,
and
in his
Hayward
his worst career numbers. That's pretty mental. So he's basically being carried by his teammates at this point, I guess.
It's been even worse in the postseason, right up through a hitless performance tonight. Hayward had a chance to score the winning run in the 9th. He scrambled to third on a Cleveland throwing error, but didn't get home. Baez was instructed to bring Hayward in with a safety squeeze, but badly botched the bunt. Fowler grounded out to end the inning. It was a gut-wrenching outcome for what at the time felt like Chicago's last and best chance to win. But that threatening yet fruitless inning was quietly pivotal in two ways, one more obvious than the other. The obvious one is right here at the plate. When that potential winning run in the 9th arrived 90 feet from home, Cleveland manager Terry Francona decided Coco Crisp's weak arm wasn't going to cut it in left field. Francona had exactly one man left on his bench, Michael Martinez, so he put Martinez in right and moved Geyer to left, a purely defense-focused decision.
And you've got basically a designated thrower in Michael Martinez.
Some tactical stuff.
Well, now it's time for offense, and that's Martinez at the plate. One of the most important at-bats in baseball history.
Is he not an offensive? Is he not known for his offensive sort of style of play, or is he not a great batter basically?
Is in the hands of a guy who hit .238 this year. who's had nothing but strikeouts here in the World Series.
Okay, so he's not known for it then.
So that's a big reason why this moment mattered.
Oh, no.
Crisp, who hit pretty well tonight, would be the guy at the plate right now if his arm was trusted in the ninth. It also mattered because Hayward's squandered opportunity to score, to finally contribute, left him seething.
Oh, no.
And after Chapman pitched Chicago out of the bottom of the ninth, Hayward had a long time to sit with his frustration. Just as the broadcast came back for the 10th inning, drizzle turned into full-on rain, and out came the tarps.
You're not going to believe this.
The game was delayed almost 20 minutes until the clouds blew by, and the players retreated to the clubhouses. Unseen by cameras as the rain fell, Hayward took the opportunity to channel his anger into leadership. He addressed the whole team in the weight room, delivering a speech Chicago desperately needed after the 8th and 9th innings shook their spirits. Hayward's speech was still ringing in the Cubs' ears when they returned to the dugout, and when Schwarber started off that monumental 10th inning with a single. So there you go. This moment contains weight beyond measure. It is the knot tying together innumerable storylines. It will be decided by a pitcher who's only here because a plan fell apart thanks to unfortunate calls, controversial decisions, and one very worn-out closer. It will be decided by a batter who isn't really meant for moments like this, whose participation in this game is just the latest in so many overlapping cascades of events. It will decide whose heroics get remembered in victory and whose get buried by defeat. It will decide which multi-generation drought will break, which curse will finally fade into the past. This moment determines one of the most meaningful sports outcomes ever. So let's see what happens.
Tense.
Welcome to a moment in history.
This is going to be
oh no, he's messed it.
The Cubs
He messed it up. So that's the first in 111 years. Well, that guy was definitely not known for his batting. I feel bad for him though. He must have felt awful. That's a hit that I would do. For some reason, I thought he was going to absolutely smash it. I find that really interesting though because...
Thanks a lot for watching Rewinder. If you want to learn more...
I'll definitely check more out of these in future. A shout out to SB Nation, by the way. If you want to see more videos, obviously check their channel out. I assume you guys know who they are anyway. I find it really interesting how in the same year the Cavs came back into basketball, they won 4-3 from being 3-1 down. They pretty much bottled it in the baseball from being 3-1 up to then losing 4-3. It's weird how those things work out, man. I'm interested to know. So I'm going to say the four main sports are obviously ice hockey, American football, basketball, and baseball. Has there ever been a scenario when in the same year all four winners from all those sports were from the same city? Because if that's the case, that must be mental. They must have went crazy. But yeah, I really enjoyed this actually. I'm definitely down to see more of this stuff, without a doubt. It's just interesting to see these sort of mini movies like put into like a story, and it's probably moments that aren't thought of as incredible, but really deep down they're actually nuts when you actually see it more detailed in these sort of formats. But yeah, I appreciate the suggestions, man. If you want to see more things like this, suggest in the comments. Until next time, like, subscribe, and peace.